Calese Crowder, arguably the worst person in Southern California, and that's saying something, is at it again. Hi, I'm Carly Heath, and this is Haunted Hollywood Hour. We're technically between seasons, but I just thought I'd pop on and give this Calese Crowder update because, honestly, I'm obsessed with trying to understand what is going on inside this man's brain. First, who is Calese Crowder? Women in Burbank and Glendale know who he is, and if you're not familiar with the name, I'll give you a quick too long didn't read. He's a man who has been caught multiple times sniffing women's butts in various retail establishments. As of July 22nd of 2025 this year, he was caught doing it again. He's been arrested, and I'm going to get into the details of that incident. But that's not all, because he has a very sinister history, and the fact that, given his extremely disturbing past, that he's been able to continue targeting women really shows you how absolutely fucked the justice system in this country is. There is something about these types of men. Brian Kohberger is another case. We just saw his sentencing hearing a couple of days ago, and you just watch his body language and you watch his face. You're like, that person is operating in a completely different reality than most people are. I know it has something to do with how they were brought up. I'm not saying that everyone who has bad parents turns out to be like this, because many people with bad parents can say they turned out great despite their parents. Those people should be commended. But from what I've researched, there's something that goes on with, the parents not affirming kids' emotions when they're growing up. And then there's also a head injury component. So if those two things happen, then there's not the typical empathy and impulse control. So I'm fascinated by this. I also am fascinated by astrology, so I will be getting into his birth chart and just some personal theories about what might be going on inside these dudes' brains. Let's find out first what happened most recently. The headline from KTLA reads, "Serial Butt Sniffer Arrested Again in Burbank." The article goes on, "A man who has been arrested multiple times for sniffing women's rear ends while in public was arrested again this week for the same crime. Calese Crowder, 38, was arrested Tuesday by officers from the Burbank Police Department at the Walmart located in the Empire Center Shopping Center on Victory Place. Police had originally responded to the nearby Nordstrom Rack in the same shopping center for a report of a suspicious man loitering in the women's department. When officers arrived on the scene, they were informed that the suspect had already left the department store, but he was located a short while later at the Walmart across the parking lot. Officers used the store's security camera system to follow the man as he moved around various departments, and then observed him following a female customer into the women's department. Officers observed the man as he crouched behind the woman and engaged in lewd behavior by inappropriately sniffing her buttocks. Police confronted the man and eventually detained him. It was later revealed that he was Calese Crowder, a resident of Glendale and a registered sex offender. Crowder is currently on active parole and has a documented history of similar arrests for similar crimes. He made national headlines in August of 2023 for committing the same act on a woman at a Barnes & Noble store in Burbank, which was caught on video and led to a viral TikTok post. I'm going to get into that. He was also identified as the suspect in several prowling crimes and was arrested that same month on allegations that he was peeping into the occupied home of a family in Glendale. He was eventually released from custody for those crimes due to a jail overcrowding issue, but was rearrested after he failed to register with local police for being a sex offender. He was arrested for not going to the police station and registering as a sex offender. Michaela Witter, who posted the original viral TikTok video, said dozens of women came forward to recount their own experiences with the same suspect. The wife of a former LA Laker also accused Calese of stalking their teenage daughter more than a decade prior. Crowder has a lengthy criminal record that includes convictions for burglary, robbery, and indecent exposure. He was also suspected of additional prowling crimes in Glendale. He's currently in police custody as he awaits charges for loitering with intent to commit a crime. His bail was set at $100,000 and he's expected back in court on August 1st. Loitering with intent to commit a crime is a crazy amount of low stakes charges. I don't know how to describe it. For someone who has repeatedly stalked women and sniffed them, which I feel like should be assault, and who's a repeated sex offender, loitering with the intent to commit a crime. I feel like that should be something a lot more. And by the way, this man has been arrested over 40 times for various offenses like robbery, burglary, peeping, stalking, etc. So let's get back to how this all started more than 10 years ago when Calese stalked Robert and Candace Horry's daughter. So Robert Horry is a 7-time NBA champion who played for the Los Angeles Lakers, which I'm informed is a sports ball team. He said back in August of 2023, when the first viral video happened, that this man, Calese Crowder, stalked his then 14-year-old stepdaughter. So this was over 13 years ago. So that means this happened around 2010-ish. Robert Horry goes on to say that Calese terrorized his family for months until he was arrested and sentenced to 8 years in prison. So that means if Calese served 8 years, he likely got out in 2018. Sometime later, he got arrested again and got out again. And this then led to the now famous incident that made Calese internet famous. On August 7th, 2023, a TikToker is shopping at Barnes & Noble in Burbank and notices a man staring at her through a hole in the shelf. She records him. Let's just have her tell the story via her TikTok. Her account is michaela.witter.
And today we're going to Barnes & Noble and getting Starbucks. Except I ended up being stalked and violated the entire time. So I get to Barnes & Noble and get my Starbucks. I'm super excited to look at books, but this is the area that it started. I was in this corner for a while and I noticed the guy was staring at me through that little hole. And I couldn't tell if I was being paranoid or if he was just reading a book and he just happened to be in that little corner. Anyways, it felt like anywhere I moved, he kept following me. So I recorded just in case he was trying to say anything or do anything to me. But I definitely didn't expect him to do this. Like, what the actual fuck? And the whole time I'm thinking I'm fine because he hasn't said anything or touched me or anything. But then you notice that he goes over and does the same thing to this girl. And he'll crouch down low and pretend like he's doing something and then smell? I don't know. And the whole time I'm wondering why he's always around me. But this was our interaction.
What are you doing? She says, "What are you doing?" And he's tying my shoe.
I was so freaked out when I turned around and saw him literally under me, so freaking close to me. So I decided to tell the front desk, and then I tried to walk to my car as fast as possible because I don't want to run into him. So I'm leaving now, but I just watched the video back because I was trying to figure out what he was doing so close to me, and it freaked, like, I'm so disgusted and I feel like really violated, even though he didn't touch me, but it just feels really gross and weird. And then I went up to the front to tell the lady because I didn't want him to do that to other people. And then as I was telling her, he was leaving. And so all she said that she could do was just tell the manager. I waited around a little bit because I didn't want to run into him. And I couldn't even focus. Like, I wanted to get a book, but then I was just, like, my anxiety was just, like, really bad. And, like, also I just felt, like, really grossed out. So I just left as soon as I could. That's literally, like, so creepy. I've never had someone do that to me. It's just really weird.
That's when Tizzy digs up this Glendale Public Safety Bulletin, and this is what it says. Male from Public Safety Bulletin arrested and in custody for prowling. This is from years ago, from back in 2021. Calese Crowder is a current resident of Glendale and has a long history of peeping, prowling, and residential burglary activity within the city of Glendale. In June of 2011, so this is a good 12 years before the Burbank sniffing incident, Crowder was arrested for a series of peeping and occupied residential burglaries in the city of Glendale, and as a result, he was convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison. So that must have been the LA Lakers stepdaughter situation. Between April 2020 and September 2021, there have been numerous reports of a male involved in late-night residential burglaries, attempted burglaries, window peeping, and or prowling in the city of Glendale around the areas between Linden Avenue and Rosedale Avenue, north of Glen Oaks and South Glenwood Road. The Glendale Police Department identified Calese Crowder as the suspect involved in these incidents, and in the last several months, he has been arrested multiple times for these prowling and peeping incidents. On September 5th, 2021, just after 2 a.m., Crowder was arrested and booked for prowling after he was caught looking into a bedroom window of an occupied residence on the 1900 block of Glenwood Road, but was released from custody. On September 17th, 2021, at approximately 8 p.m., a male matching Crowder's description was reported looking into a kitchen window of another residence on the 1900 block of Glenwood Road. Officers attempted to contact Crowder at his residence that evening, but were unable to locate him. So 2 times, they were just like, yeah, he was caught, he was noticed, but they didn't do anything. First time they released him from custody. The second time they couldn't find him at his residence because he was out committing a crime. They're like, let's not go looking for him. During the investigation, Crowder was identified as the suspect involved in the September 17th incident. A public safety bulletin regarding Calese Crowder was posted to the Glendale Police Department social media accounts on September 22nd, 2021. And as of September 23rd, 2021, detectives assigned to Glendale Police Department's Burglary Bureau executed an arrest warrant for Crowder, and he was subsequently arrested for prowling and disorderly conduct, and he remains in custody. Please take extra precautions to keep yourself and your family safe, specifically from the crimes of peeping, prowling, and residential burglary. To report a crime to the Glendale Police Department, please call 818-548-4911 or in an emergency 911. This whole thing, this is a huge bulletin. They do not normally put out bulletins like this. Calese was causing this much disturbance back in 2020 and 2021, and they just keep on releasing him until finally, after multiple incidents in September, they had him in custody. But how long did they keep him in custody? Not very long. So Tizzy reads that whole, bulletin and posts that video. And in the 24 hours since posting that first video, again, this is August of 2023, 2 years after that public bulletin, Tizzy had multiple women reach out to him with experiences they had with that guy. And another woman posted another video of Calese doing the same thing to her that Michaela had experienced in the same exact Barnes & Noble. And then Tizzy posts a third update. At this point, Calese has been arrested on August 12, 2023 for peeping and prowling, not the sniffing incident. He pleads no contest. He's sentenced to 60 days in jail. Not enough for a repeat sex offender. But the story doesn't end there, because on August 20th, Calese was released. And let's just hear Tizzy's update, because he captures the absolute bonkers nature of why this guy keeps on getting released.
Hey, happy Monday. Guess who got released from jail again? Calese Crowder, a.k.a. Barnes & Noble sniffer, got arrested again and released again. To recap, he was arrested, not for the sniffing incidents, actually for peeping and prowling. He's charged. He pleads no contest. He's sentenced to 60 days in jail. One day later, he's let out of jail. 24 hours after that, he's arrested again. Why? Because part of the terms of his release was he had to go to the police station and register as a sex offender, and he didn't do that, so he was arrested. And now he's been released again. I'm happy to tell you why, but I want to give something of a disclaimer. They say that nothing causes a brain aneurysm, but comedian Lewis Black believes that hearing or seeing something extremely stupid that you can't stop thinking about may be the cause, and I'm kind of with him on that. So that being said, I want that disclaimer out here before I tell you the reason he was released. He walked out of jail Friday with Los Angeles County's District Attorney George Gaskin's office telling us they didn't have enough evidence to prosecute his latest alleged crime, failing to register as a sex offender. They didn't have enough evidence to prosecute him for failing to register as a sex offender. This isn't, he's accused of robbing a convenience store and the witnesses can't quite ID him and there's no security footage. It's a registry. He had to go into a police station and register. He either did that and he's registered, or he didn't do that and he's not registered. And he was arrested for not being registered. And they said, not enough evidence of whether or not he registered? What? I know the problem is it's considered like a nonviolent crime. This was his 42nd arrest. He's done time for robbery and burglary, for peeping, for stalking. Remember, he stalked and harassed LA Laker Robert Horry's 14-year-old stepdaughter and was sentenced to 8 years in prison for that. Just like a little over a year ago, he was sentenced to a year in prison for exposing himself to a woman and manipulating himself while she was out walking a dog. Only a matter of time before he actually assaults someone. It's been alleged that he has prior. And you keep letting him out. What is it you all need? What do you need? What do you need to put him away and get him into some sort of program that I don't know if it's going to take, but into some program where he mandatorily has to go through therapy? What do you need to do that? Let me know. I'll do anything I can to help.
In Tizzy's video there, he shows a screenshot of an article that says Calese has been in and out of custody since 2005. So for the last 20 years, Calese has been committing crimes. And as like said before, more than 40 incidents. He's been arrested more than 40 times. There has to be a point where the justice system is like, this person is not safe to be out on the street. I'm not saying that anything cruel or inhumane should happen to him, but he needs to be in an environment that's separate from the public, where he is getting counseling and where people are studying his brain to try and figure out what is going on there and where did that come from. So that brings us to July 22nd, 2025, just a few days ago. As I said, Calese Crowder, now 38 years old, has been arrested again. He crept up on a woman in Nordstrom Rack. Surveillance footage captured that incident and then captured where he had then left that store. Here's the full police report. On July 22nd, 2025, Burbank police officers responded to a report of a suspicious individual loitering in the women's department of Nordstrom Rack located at 1601 North Victory Place. Upon arrival, officers were informed that the suspect had already left. A search of surrounding area led officers to a nearby Walmart located at 1301 North Victory Place, where the suspect was found inside, and using the store's surveillance system, officers monitored the suspect as he moved through various departments. While in the women's section, the suspect was observed following a female customer crouching near her and engaging in lewd behavior by inappropriately sniffing her buttocks. Given the nature of the behavior, officers made contact with the suspect and detained him for further investigation. The suspect was identified as 38-year-old Calese Crowder, a resident of Glendale, and Crowder is a registered sex offender currently on active parole and has a documented history of similar arrests for lewd conduct both in Glendale and Burbank dating back to 2021. The Burbank City Attorney's Office has filed 1 count of loitering with intent to commit a crime against Crowder. He remains in custody with bail set at $100,000, and his next court appearance is scheduled for August 1st, 2025. This investigation remains ongoing. Anyone with information to this case or who believes they may have been a victim is urged to contact the Burbank Police Department. And it is my opinion that this man is a legit threat and he is going to rape or murder someone any day now. It's just a matter of time. Meanwhile, here in all of LA County, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is detaining and arresting and deporting peaceful, hardworking people who are just trying to live their lives. ICE is separating families, and their pets are getting sent to animal shelters. But guys like Calese Crowder, who target women again and again and again, well, he continues to be on the streets, regardless of how many times he gets arrested. And let's face it, so do so many men. And I'm sure we can all think of who they are. And I would venture to guess that immigrant men are by far the least dangerous. These are not the folks that we should be worried about. It's the narcissists and sociopaths that continue to get away with it because we live in a system that incentivizes sociopathy. Please feel free to tell me I'm wrong, but I'm also dying to know, why is Calese Crowder the way he is? So if anyone has details on his parents, his upbringing, what he was like as a child, please send me all those deets. I was able to get his date of birth, so I have his birth chart. He is a Virgo sun, and his moon is in Aquarius. We don't know his rising sign because I don't know what time he was born, but really interesting. He has a Venus-Pluto conjunction in Scorpio, which is fascinating because a lot of killers, just look at the charts of any famous murderer. Venus in Scorpio is so common. And really interesting, he has his Mercury at 29 degrees Virgo, and that's where my Mercury is. I just think that's fascinating because I'm fascinated by why are you like this, Calese Crowder? So another interesting thing, he has a Jupiter retrograde opposite his sun. So Jupiter is in Pisces, which is actually a pretty good place for Jupiter. Maybe that's why he continues to get released. Jupiter retrograde often indicates the law not doing what it should, because Jupiter is often the law. And when Jupiter's retrograde, it's like the law is not functioning as well as it should be. He has an exalted Mars in Capricorn. I tend to notice people with an exalted Mars in Capricorn, they have no shame. Like they will do anything to protect their ego. He has a Saturn in Sagittarius. So I think his North Node is also in Aries. That means his South Node is in Libra, which is Libra's a sign associated with justice. And so a lot of things in this chart say like justice is not doing what it should here. But for anyone who is an astro girly who wants to look up Calese Crowder's chart for their own educational value, check out September 14th, 1986, Glendale, California. We don't know the time, so we're out of luck there. But, come to think of it, a lot of serial killers are Virgos. And with the moon in Aquarius, a lot of Aquarius, they're outsiders. Aquarius often feels like they have a strong need to try to impress people in power, but they will never be fully accepted by the people that they want to impress. You can also see a little bit of the parental dynamic in this. So in this case, the sun and the moon are in aversion. So that means the mother and father don't talk to each other. So maybe it's a single mother situation or a single parent situation. Like I said, I don't know the rising time. I don't know how this falls in the chart, but Mercury is also combusts the sun. When any planet, especially Mercury, is combusts the sun, that lets you know that the father figure in that person's life had kind of like an overpowering, overbearing presence. And in this case, the father figure maybe dominated the communication. So where the child growing up maybe continues trying very hard to appease the father, and they're not allowed to be authentic to themselves because the father is so overpowering and so overbearing. I've seen people where they just basic skills, because their father was so overbearing, they're not able to do those basic skills. And the Venus conjunct Pluto. Pluto is often associated with kidnapping, trying to dominate something. So the idea here is this is a person who is dominated by the father. And so now he wants to dominate women, show his power over women by engaging this really weird behavior. Scorpio is often associated with like the butt, the intestines. People with a lot of Scorpio placements are really obsessed with their colon. They tend to have like a lot of colon intestinal problems. And so that's really interesting. So Venus, the planet of love, the things that you attract, being in Scorpio, a sign that's in terms of the body, like associated with the butt. And then Pluto being right there, Venus conjunct Pluto, this chart tells a story, that's for sure. So we'll have to see what happens with Calese. I hate it, but if you are a sicko like me and fascinated with everything morbid, then you probably want to subscribe to this podcast. Check out our previous episodes. We're going to have a whole new season soon. I'm planning a whole bunch of new episodes that are going to be very interesting. Let's just say that. Until next time, bye.